Welcome back to the Have Not Room. I'm joined here by Brian, and it's been a minute. We
Yes.
had a bunch of scheduling snafus this season so far,
Mhm.
but we're back. We're going to talk. We're going to, I guess, briefly recap weeks 4 and 5, probably, and then dig a little bit into week 6 here, which is like we're wrapping up in the next 24 hours. Maybe preview a little bit of this twist that Julie kind of has teased for us and what that
Mhm.
might mean for the game going forward,
Mhm.
and kind of have a little bit of a reset. So what do you think? What's on your mind here, Brian? We got
Oh
like two and a
gosh.
half weeks to talk about here. So what's the first thing you want to get into?
Yeah. So this is gonna be a jam-packed show. We got uh, floaty pool sex. We got
Mhm.
potential race wars. We have um,
Only in Kyle's mind.
only in Kyle's mind. Yeah. Luckily, not in anyone else's. Just one player. Um, and we have Jasmine every week we have a different gate between her and Turner. Gosh, there's just so much. Oh, we have controversy on a twist with involving Sid Vicious. There's just a lot, Ben. I don't even know where to start.
Well, I guess we can, we don't have to spend too much time on Nicole and Daniel,
Yeah,
but we can, like, I guess,
I
briefly
get.
say,
Yeah,
you
let's.
know, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we gotta at least talk a little bit about Daniel just because he was your winner pick. Um,
Unfortunately, yeah.
unfortunate,
Hmm.
unfortunately.
On multiple
Um,
fronts.
hmm So it's been a rough couple of weeks for our show and for our winner picks. And Michael, I won the draft, but who knows what's gonna play out? Like it just wasn't the show's season. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this was a kind of a unique season, and a lot of the players. Well, I think a lot of people pegged Michael as doing well
Yeah,
early on in
yeah,
the preseason, but I think like a lot of the players that are doing well right now are not people that a lot of people had kind of an eye on in the
mm,
preseason. Like,
right.
I don't think a lot of people would have pegged Turner as probably one of the more likely winners at this point.
No, I'm trying to like think back. I don't think I saw anybody who's high on Turner like when the cast first came out.
Hmm.
I think there was the one thing where his sister tried to cancel him and got canceled herself
Hmm.
on Twitter, and then he's very well known for speaking out about the toxic work environment around Mr. Beast's videos, which you know who knows. I'm listen, with how much content they pump out on those channels, I don't doubt it was a little not great of a work environment. But yeah, he was not popular from that. But I think maybe one of the biggest turnarounds from preseason to in season I've ever seen. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think that like, if we do end up here with a Turner win at the end of the season, I think we have to
Mhm.
look back at his week 3 HOH as potentially like one of the most like pivotal HOH weeks for a winner like in the history of the game, maybe,
Yeah,
just in
no,
terms of
that's
turnaround for him.
for sure.
Yeah, it's very, very rare for a player to turn around that much by utilizing an HOH. Usually, winners are pretty, like, historically for the last, decade or so, winners have been like relatively dominant throughout the season,
Mhm.
and they just kind of utilize HOHs as like a continuation bet for their existing strategy.
Mhm.
It's very rare that we get a player who is like very on the outs and then they win HOH and they're able to actually utilize that to put themselves into a really good position and then
Mhm.
potentially ride that into an actual victory.
Yeah, it was
So
pretty
yeah.
much like a week one HOH, but in week
Mhm.
three, it was very impressive. And like you said, not something we see very often. Xavier last season was in on every alliance. I feel
Yeah.
like every permutation of every single alliance that came up included him, and he was right there from wire to wire on the game. But Yeah, well, I guess we'll see. I mean, there's quite a lot of work to be done, but he seems to be in a decent spot. I don't see anybody coming after him. Maybe this twist might screw
Yeah.
him, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, we can get into that when we get through like kind of preview the twist because I definitely think at least one person. It's gonna be a double eviction
Hmm.
next week. I think at least one of the two people will probably be twist screwed in whatever capacity that's defined
Yeah.
as. So yeah, it could be Turner. I think that more likely it would probably be Joseph if we're going to
Oh,
look
all
at
right.
somebody who's going to get twist screwed. At least from what I would predict, um, but yeah, very good, very impressive, and yeah, I guess do you have anything to say about Nicole and Daniel, or you just want to kind of breeze through this?
I mean, it just sucks that it became like a very negative situation. They both seem to be very like I don't know. Is it trite to say that they seemed mean? I don't know, but it seemed like there was a mean streak in both of them, and that ultimately contributed heavily to their undoing. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and I think that we kind of see in some of the post game press the description of the treatment of Taylor as like gameplay, but this is kind of
Mm,
an argument that I tried to beat down before. I think the last time that we recorded
mm,
at this point is like a year ago,
yeah,
and in saying that their treatment of Taylor was actually directly responsible for the fact that they're both going out pre-jury here. So if it was gameplay, it was really, really stupid gameplay and bad
yeah,
gameplay. But we are able to see enough to know that it wasn't. It was just personal.
yeah. I mean, just because it happened in the game doesn't mean it
Yeah,
was gameplay.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. There's like, I mean, you could be like, oh, everything that happens is gameplay because you're always playing the game.
yeah,
But there are certain actions that people take deliberately for gameplay motivations, as opposed to actions that they're just so happening to take within the confines of the game that have gameplay repercussions. And I think those
mm,
are important distinctions to draw.
yeah. Also, Daniel's fascination with Paloma got weird, right? It
Hmm.
got really weird. How long was Paloma in the house for, Ben?
Like 5 days, I
Five
think
days.
six
And were
days.
they particularly close? Like,
No.
yeah, I didn't think so. So the fact that he was like being like, "This is all for you, Paloma. I can't wait to hang out." I don't know how Paloma was feeling about that, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, Paloma made a six-person alliance and then swapped one of those people out and then swapped another one of those people out. And in none of those permutations was Daniel ever involved. So
Yeah,
within Paloma's mind, he was not even in the top half of the house that she wanted to align with.
yeah.
So very interesting to think about that, but it's all right.
Tough scene. That's just
Yeah.
how it is. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like preseason we had a lot of hope for Daniel. Obviously, you picked him as a winner pick, and then he didn't live up to it. And I feel kind of bad because I don't know if I do feel bad. It is ironic that like he had such, and this probably happens to a lot of people, where everyone views themselves as like the protagonist and like the good guy, and like being like, oh, this game's so boring if you vote me off, all this stuff, and it's just like, man, no, that is not the feeling that the viewers have at all.
Yeah, no, I think there was a fan poll that was ran for like, are you happy that Nicole and Daniel were voted out in like semi-boring weeks back to back here? I think it was 99% of the respondents said yes. So yeah, I don't think the audience is particularly miffed by this like quote unquote boring gameplay that Daniel is so up in his head about.
Yeah. Yep. Taylor's goodbye message was very good.
Mhm,
Michael's was fun. The idiot sandwich callback, always good.
mhm.
Yeah. And so I guess that's really all I have to say about them. It
Mhm.
is crazy because I did at probably the second week of the season, I was like, Nicole's definitely in the best spot in this house. Like,
Hmm.
she's gonna probably roll very far into this game, and then nope.
Yeah, I mean, Nicole got invited into the post Pack Alliance for like legitimately no good logical reason, and that should have been really good. I mean, do what do you think is ultimately the downfall? Is it are we going to attribute the majority of the blame to Alyssa? I think that's the most like direct line of the downfall of post pack
Mhm.
and kind of the buildup of the leftovers here, with her kind of being drunk and horny and spilling all of her game secrets to Kyle in the shower.
Yeah,
Um,
that I mean definitely was the biggest part. Ironically, like we wouldn't have thought it at the time, but getting rid of Pooch almost made Joseph and Turner like wake up a little bit,
yep,
and
100%.
it's like, oh wow, shit, there's a lot happening that we're not a part of. So I think that contributed to it as well. Michael and Brittany being willing to kind of flip the game, and Turner being like willing to kind of put his neck on the line and be like the one making the shift with his moves, because it is really easy to just go with the house. We've seen it a bunch of times, to just be like, oh, status quo, we're not going to do anything. So it's just like a bunch of different things coming in. And I mean, it worked out, I think, from a viewing perspective. I think we greatly prefer it. Now, of course, we're entering a whole new stage of controversy within everything, but for a brief moment, we had it all.
Yeah, and the leftovers are also like, warring and falling apart as is
Mm,
expected. Because I mean, look,
yeah.
they when you get an alliance like this actually hasn't happened recently on Big Brother US, which is surprising, where you have like the committee kind of getting it down to the final seven with
Mm,
Enzo, who is like a add-on to them, and you have the cookout making it to the final six. So it hasn't been like that common in the last few seasons at the very least. But uh, you kind of expect a dominant alliance like this to kind of start to fall apart and have a civil war once there's enough like kind of the bigger targets outside of the alliance that are out, and you
mm.
have people who are left like Jasmine and Terrence, who are essentially non-threats. Um,
Yeah.
so it makes
Terrace is
sense.
essentially like on a cruise this summer. Uh, it just
Yeah,
happens to be taking place in the Big Brother house.
yeah. I don't know. I just, uh, I've said Jasmine's and Terrence's name now probably more than I expected to on this podcast, despite the fact that we're talking about a 3 week period.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, if
so
only Jasmine didn't hurt her ankle, she could have been a real comp piece, you know? That's really what robbed her, I feel.
mhm. Yeah, definitely for sure.
Yeah.
She would have stayed
Michael
up on the
who?
wall for 7 minutes instead of five.
Mm. I mean, I'm not gonna make fun of people for that because I know I would last
Sure.
not long on one of those walls. I would actually probably try to get off before they start spraying stuff on
Mhm.
people, being like, I'm not gonna win this. I'm also not gonna get slimed.
I mean, I would stay up just because sometimes they'll do like the first three off for have-nots or whatever.
Mm.
So I would not want to do
Yeah,
that.
that's true. That's
Uh,
true.
they didn't, but they could have.
Yeah, they should have.
Yeah. um, but yeah. I guess let's we say goodbye to Nicole and Danielle. We're kind of jumping all over the place here because
That's
there's
fine.
so much to cover. We
Yeah,
don't really
that's
have
fine.
a path forward here. We say goodbye to Nicole and Daniel. Daniel does not take responsibility for backdooring Nicole, even though he did.
Hmm. Hmm.
He'd do that. And
I
we
saw
move
that
on.
great meme. Someone, sorry, it
Yeah.
was a great
Okay.
meme. Someone photoshopped Daniel's face on a Kaser's body, being like, "I ended my partner, or I sealed my partner's fate."
Mm,
I just thought that was great.
yeah. No, that's. It's like the kind of a combination of that, like the Spider-Man meme, or like the um, what's it called? the Eric Andre show meme where he's like
Oh,
shooting,
with Hannibal. Yeah, or
yeah,
shooting Hannibal.
Hannibal, yeah,
Yeah, that was. I mean, really, yeah. That's
yeah,
it's
a lot of
embarrassing.
good.
I guess at least he can like tell himself that Kyle probably would have used the veto anyways. So it wasn't
Mhm.
100% him, but it is a lot funnier that they let him be the one to make the call.
Yeah, I think that the whole situation very interesting because uh, Kyle last week and then also now Kyle this week uh, is very much like tacitly kind of protecting Alyssa
Mm,
for obvious reasons, but like kind of being with the leftovers. Like, no, I'm just my hands are kind of tied, guys. Like, what am I supposed to do?
okay.
I can't let I can't vote out Alyssa now. She'll get voted out eventually. So it is an interesting dichotomy that carries over 2 weeks in a row with Kyle kind of winning both of those vetoes. So
Yeah. Would it? Well, I think it would have been better for Kyle's game, but would have been better for the leftovers at large to have kind of pushed to have Alyssa out pre-jury.
um, I don't think they expected this to develop into what it has.
Mm,
Um, I think that I don't know. It's kind of a double-edged sword here, right? Because I think it depends on whether you think Kyle having Alyssa around legitimately gives him enough power to do something with that power, or
mm,
like it's just creating more of a target to make Kyle and Alyssa uh, like people who the leftovers are going to turn on as soon as possible.
mm,
And I think that some of the calculus was done by people like Michael to be like, yeah, I mean, it's probably better to keep that around as like a shield.
mm,
Like, Daniel kind of pitched to Michael, like, you keep me around as a shield. And Michael was like, well, I was thinking about keeping him around as a shield, but now that he's like self-aware that I would be keeping him around as a shield, it's
mm,
probably not correct to do that because that means that he's like smart enough to kind of like, to do that, to like
mm.
make that play. Whereas if I keep around Kyle and Alyssa as a shield, they're just going to kind of implicitly be that, and I can still work with Kyle down the road if need be. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard because like most of the leftovers definitely have their own agenda, but it's not really clear. Like I couldn't really tell you what Monty's agenda really is. I couldn't
Yeah.
really tell you what Taylor's agenda really is. Even through her HOH week that we're going to talk about, I don't super know what she wants
Mm,
out of it. It was kind of a mess.
yeah.
It
Not
wasn't
great.
kind of a mess. It was a mess. It was a big mess. I love Taylor, but not a great
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think that right now, like when you talk about what the leftovers want, my mind immediately goes to what does Michael want,
Mm,
and then like kind of secondarily to like what does Kyle want, or what does Turner want, or maybe what does Joseph want,
mm.
and then everyone else is kind of just like riding along. Brittany, for much of this week, even though Taylor is her final two, had no clue what the fuck was going on.
Right.
So it's just bad looks kind of all around from a lot of the players.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
Oh man.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know how to like really dissect this because this is kind of a weird situation where nothing is happening, but everything is happening, and all of the stuff that's currently kind of trickling might not actually matter because of the twist. So I
Mm.
don't even know how to really set this up in like kind of a cogent way.
Well, I guess so. Taylor won the HOH.
Yes.
What initially did Taylor want out of this?
Right. So I think that Indy was, I think, always going to be the plan.
Mm,
Taylor was kind of confusing here because she immediately said that she didn't want to target women.
mm-hmm,
However, and in particular, she wanted to not put Jasmine on the block if possible.
mm-hmm,
Um, um, However, there's 11 people left. 7 of them are on the leftovers, and 3 out of the 4 who aren't in the leftovers are women. So if she's going to stick with the alliance, she has to put at least one woman up, right?
yeah.
If she ends up nominating Indy and Terrence here, with Indy being the intended target. Um, and there kind of becomes this plan, this kind of really wacky plan of we're going to try to hide the leftovers by winning the veto, using it on Terrence, and then putting up Joseph, and then just still sending Indy home.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I still don't understand why. I don't think that it could be explained to me why, and me like be able to explain it back to somebody else,
Right.
because it makes no sense at all. It's
Yeah.
completely unnecessary. At this point, it's just like playing with your food for no reason
Hmm.
type shit that the cookout kind of did last season a little bit with like, really kind of hyper, messing with the probabilities of like 99.5% to 99.9% perfection
Hmm.
of how they can run each week. And it's like, it's just so, it's way too cute. It's so unnecessary.
Hmm.
And they luckily don't end up doing it, but still.
Yeah. No, it was a tough. I think it was on Sunday's episode. It was kind of a tough look for her because she was like putting all these like caveats on who she would nominate, and
Hmm.
it got to the point. It was like, Turner, maybe I'll nominate you. And
Yeah.
Turner was like, come on, like me of all of our alliance members, the person who like put his neck out for you, like
Yeah.
that's kind of shitty. Luckily, she didn't do that. I don't know if she had like a realization or you had a conversation about that, but like that's the one that stuck out to me where it's like, Turner, really?
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think that like, this is kind of one of those situations where somebody wins HOH because they want to win a competition. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Taylor's basically been like kind of clawing her way, trying to like claw her way back into relevance in the game for five
Right.
weeks now, even though she's been in the majority alliance for 3 weeks. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that's kind of been at arm's length in a lot of
Right.
cases.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like I think she wanted to win HOH just to be like, hey, I'm like a part of this game. I'm
Yeah.
making decisions, I'm making moves. Like I have to be included in things now. But she didn't really have a plan
Mm-hmm.
or like a motivation or like a path that she wanted to take this. And that basically just led to her spitballing ideas all week long to the point where it like kind of collapsed a lot of her relationships and trust with people,
Yeah.
and is potentially putting her on a trajectory to be evicted as soon as next week. Um,
Yeah.
so it's just not good. Like you can't win HOH and not have a plan. At least kind of like a basic structure of how you want the week to go in your mind that you
Mm-hmm.
can use as like a guideline for how you want to conduct yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're not 100% sure what you want to do, just throw the comp.
Yeah, I mean, look, if Kyle wins this HOH, it's basically the same week. Like
Mm-hmm.
Indy's still probably going either way. Like there's no difference essentially. And Taylor can still play in the next HOH, which is probably going to be easier to win, assuming the twist happens the way I expect it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be more important because the twist is going to be extremely volatile and random. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
they don't know that there's going to be this kind of a twist coming up, but still, when you have a potentially easy week and you can throw the HOH to an ally that will most likely protect you,
Mm-hmm.
it's just generally correct to do that unless you want to make a move, which Taylor did not want to do. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I understand that, she wants to win because it's important for her to, put her stamp on the game in some way. But it was just not super strategically well executed across the
Yeah,
board.
unfortunate. Very unfortunate considering the season she's had.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be a high point to win HOH, but kind of fumbled it. And we see this happen a lot in these games.
Oh yeah.
If someone gets power and they just don't know how to wield it very well, and it blows up in their own face, unfortunately. Yeah, so who won the veto? Right now, this
Uh,
is dropping probably immediately after the episode. Let's pretend we watched the episode tonight. Such a good episode. Really great
mhm,
editing. Just shout out to the production team.
mhm.
So, yeah, veto competition. Who won?
we walk away. I referenced it earlier, so if you were paying attention, you would have caught it. But Kyle is
Yes.
the winner of the veto comp.
And it was
Uh,
the Yankee swap veto, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So we have uh, Taylor and Joseph leave the comp shackled together for 48 hours.
Always a fun
Terrence,
one.
yeah, Terrence got tattoos or something.
I heard it was called Ink 182, and he has to do 182 like water
Tattoos.
on
Yep. Yeah, yeah,
temporary
yeah. Water. Yeah.
tattoos.
Temporary tattoos. Yep.
I saw,
Um,
I saw a clip of him from the live feed. He just looked so dejected, just completely covered in them, and it's like, oh, that sucks.
yeah, it's probably worse than a costume, I think.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Especially because those things, like, when you like have to actually, like you either have to leave them on until they naturally come off over,
Mm,
weeks, or you have to like scrub them off, which
yeah,
usually is kind of painful and can tear your hair out.
yep. And he
So
has 182 of them, so great.
yeah. Um, and then who else? Jasmine got a trip to
Mhm.
Europe,
To
which is good
Paris, I
because
heard. To
yeah,
well, I heard it was to the UK, but she said that she's gonna visit Paris.
it's unclear because she's not good at geography. So
Yeah,
she was very confused about where major countries and cities in Europe
mm,
are located, or what is a
yeah.
country and what is a city.
I mean, if you're in the UK, you may as well go to Paris. But
Hmm.
if you win a trip to the UK, you're not automatically going to Paris.
Sure. And then what else? Alyssa won like
She's the one who won
5K, I think.
5K, yeah.
Yeah. Who did I forget?
And then
Uh,
Indy, she won a costume, right?
yes, Indy got a costume. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's it.
Hey,
So yeah,
always
what was it?
fun. I like
Three.
the Yankee swap.
Was it three punishments, two rewards, and then the veto?
Mhm.
So there you go.
Yeah. So, it's
There,
it's fun.
there is some drama that's going to play out in the episode, or
Mhm.
as you're watching this, that did likely play out in the episode of uh, Alyssa taking the trip from Taylor, and then Jasmine then subsequently taking the trip from her. And the reason that Taylor is going to ultimately change her mind and want to backdoor Alyssa is very much predicated on the fact that Alyssa unnecessarily took the trip from Taylor when ultimately it was probably going to get taken from her anyways.
Mhm.
But it's kind of stupid and petty reasons. The Yankee swap always causes drama, and it's never
Yeah.
for like a rational reason.
Yeah. It's almost like if you're not really involved, like you're not going home, you're not the HOH, and you're
Mhm.
not like caring, just take whatever you get. You get a punishment, you get a punishment.
Yeah,
Uh,
I also hate the logic that is sometimes utilized and was kind of utilized here of like, oh, Alyssa could be in danger this week, right? She should
mm,
take the veto, even though I think she came in third
mm.
or fourth in the competition.
Yeah, so it doesn't
Uh,
matter.
yeah, so it's like, yeah, somebody who is coming after you is going to take the veto from you. So there's just no reason to try to take the veto unless you win, or if
Mm,
you're, unless you're like, was it BB16, where like the person who won the comp didn't actually take the veto,
right.
which is extremely rare. It's not something that happens super often.
That's how we got Victoria on the board
Yeah,
for a veto win. So
yeah,
exciting. History was made.
hmm yeah. Somebody winning. Well, it wasn't the first time somebody's won a comp that they didn't like
Mm,
win, but it's like one of the few times.
right.
Um, So yeah, that's pretty much it from like that segment of the strategy for the week. And then we kind of got this like very awkward like day and a half standoff of Kyle, who is the veto holder, realizing that Alyssa is probably going to go up in the block and go home if he uses it
Mm.
after they, get rid of the Joseph plan, luckily. And him trying to basically convince everybody in the alliance that all of the other people in the alliance that they haven't talked to yet agree with him that he shouldn't use the veto. And you have, for instance, Michael and Brittany, and most of the rest of the leftovers, but Michael and Brittany in particular, kind of playing the middle here between Taylor and Kyle, where they're running information back and forth and pretending to both of them like they agree with their decision. They're pretending to Taylor that they want to backdoor and eliminate Alyssa, and they're pretending to Kyle like they don't. Uh, and so, yeah, definitely some tension here.
Yeah, I mean, not great for Kyle to pull a Daniel here, if that's what he was going to do. End of the day, there was a big fight at the veto meeting, from what I hear. Do you have like any specifics on how it played out?
Um, Not really.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. We'll see it, I assume, unless it's like a cliffhanger, and we'll see it tomorrow. Um,
Right.
but yeah, we'll probably see at least we'll see the fallout tomorrow,
Mm.
regardless. So yeah, definitely. We're basically right now seeing what the dregs, or not the dregs really, but like the kind of uh, the initial moment of like the leftovers actually kind of falling apart. Because like before this, it was like this Cold War situation that generally happens with these big alliances, where everybody kind of has their people and they use their people as like leverage against the other members of their alliance.
Mm.
Right now, we're at a situation where after this week, headed into the next round, there's probably going to be internal shots taken, and especially with the twist, there's like almost certainly going to be internal shots taken, and it's going to be kind of complicated because I still am not sure where everybody's loyalties lie. We're probably going to have to wait to see diary room sessions from tonight and tomorrow to like really get a good view of what everyone actually plans on doing,
Right.
because you have people like Michael openly playing both sides of certain things. You have people like Turner openly playing both sides of certain things. And they're both probably in an okay spot for now, at least. Michael maybe a little bit less so, but it's hard for me to know what shots they actually want to take, because Michael, for instance, has talked about how he is kind of done with Taylor and is okay with letting her go first from the alliance,
Mm.
when previously that hadn't been his stance.
Right.
But the people he's saying this to aren't necessarily like people I would like think that he would be 100% truthful with
Mm.
in that instance. So I don't know. It's very up in the air. There's a lot of kind of chaos right now within this alliance, and even if I could predict what would happen in certain circumstances with a normal week coming up, we have this twist week coming up that probably is just going to mean two random people go home, and we have to do a full reset the week after on the final eight.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, right now, Indy is gonna be the first member of the jury.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Indy seems, fine. I guess she's had some questionable comments here and there, but I don't feel like we're losing that much by losing Indy. Is that unfair to say?
I mean, look, I think it's surprising, if anything, that Andy is like being targeted at all, or like
Mm.
being like somebody that they care to evict at all. I think it's probably just like a testament to how game irrelevant Jasmine and Terrence are.
Yeah.
Compared, like it's like in a normal season, Indy would probably be the least game relevant person in the house. But because like Jasmine and Terrence are even less of a threat in terms of like, you know, Indy is more likely to back into a comp win than
Mm.
Jasmine and Terrence, right?
Mm.
Is the basic logic, and then Alyssa would be targeted here, but Kyle is protecting her.
Mm.
Uh, so yeah, Indy kind of just being evicted here by default, uh, which it kind of sucks. But also, Indy has basically not played the game at all from like day one until now. Uh, you know, the Five Swatters alliance that we see is not is like the first alliance that she was really in
Mm.
for realsies. That's like, even though it's also a fake alliance. And then we have like the convenience store alliance, which is not obviously going to mean anything really also coming forward. So like,
Mhm.
I don't know. She's never really been a part of a real alliance. She's never really had any strategic or social agency in the game. He didn't really like have any, you know, she never really got close to winning a comp. So like, I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to be like, oh, Indy's getting like super screwed here or anything.
Mhm.
She's she's leaving the game quicker than I thought she would have. I thought she was probably locked in for like the final five,
Mhm.
if especially with the leftover alliance falling apart.
Right.
But yeah, just kind of a victim of circumstance and a victim of not really actively playing the game.
Aren't we all, Ben?
Yeah, well, very yeah, we're all victims of our circumstance.
Mhm.
But when your circumstance is shitty and you sit around doing nothing to improve your circumstance,
Mhm.
then I'm not going to be like super bummed out when you get negative or negative results.
Yeah, I
Uh,
wonder if like casting was like trying to recreate like the magic of like Abby Maria from Survivor. Cast
yeah,
this like Brazilian girl who seemed to have a bit of an edge to her, but then just never really came out. Wasn't didn't get the juice from it like they did with Abby Maria. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, like whatever you want to say about Abigail in terms of her likelihood of winning Survivor, she was still strategically active in both of her
Mhm.
seasons,
Yeah.
and she would play villainously in her strategic game,
Mhm.
uh, on top of kind of like the personal snarkiness or whatever.
Right.
Whereas that's not really something that Indy did. Like she never really like took an active role in like trying to play like a villainous game or even any game at all. So like yeah, I just think that I think that she kind of expected to come on Big Brother Brazil, which is she's talked about it a lot, and it's to my understanding more close to like the European version of the show,
Right.
where there's less kind of game strategy, um,
Mhm.
and didn't really have the plans to like do anything particularly interesting.
Yeah. Hey, maybe this gives her a better chance to get on Baby Brazil. I don't know if they ever do crossover
Maybe
stuff
the
or not.
challenge.
Maybe the challenge.
Yeah.
Um, but
So
yeah,
yeah.
this is it. It's indie, whatever. It's fine.
hmm
Next week should be interesting.
Yeah. So we're getting a 2-hour episode on Thursday,
Hmm.
um, which is confusing because the way I read what Julie said last week was next week is a double eviction,
Hmm.
but the twist is going to be a week long leading up to that. And so
Hmm.
presumably the first half of the hour on tomorrow night's episode will be a normal eviction episode. It'll end like the end of the first hour will be Indy finishing her exit press or exit interview with Julie, right? And then the second hour will be them setting up and executing the first part of the twist. Kind of how
Hmm.
I'm reading it. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
what your thoughts are.
I'm confused because like it'll be a live show tomorrow, right?
hmm
So it's just gonna be like a live hour with nothing really happening.
Well, I'm assuming they're going to show the entirety of the HOH competition or
Hmm.
competitions, is what I would guess.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like um, things that for some reason are going to take an hour.
Yeah, right. That's my
So,
thing. It's like,
yeah.
what are we doing for this hour?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I
it's
think, yeah.
probably just gonna be like, if I had to guess on a live comp, it would be the
Good
booths. Have
questions.
we
Yeah,
seen
votes.
booths at all this season?
Um, there was one, right?
I can't remember.
Um, maybe not actually.
Yeah, so that would be my guess. It'd
Yeah.
be like they both run through, maybe even concurrently. Probably not. I don't know. It'd be
Yeah, it's confusing. So,
yeah.
okay, they haven't really set out exactly how the twist works, but my understanding of how the twist will work is it'll be kind of similar to what Survivor has recently been doing at the Final 10, which is
Yeah.
splitting the tribe into two groups of five, and they individually kind of have their own game happening as if it were kind of tribal.
Mhm.
And so my guess is the house will be split into two groups of five. Each of those groups of five will basically independently execute what would be equivalent to a final five round of Big Brother. And then at the end of the week, each of those groups of five will evict a person, and that will be the double eviction. And it seems like, from what Julie inferred or like implied, that the house will also somehow be split, and they won't
Yeah.
be able to interact with each other. I don't know how that works.
I don't know either. It's gonna be opposite worlds all over again.
Yeah, because like there's obviously like shared areas, like the bathroom and the kitchen.
The
So
kitchen. Like
yeah, I don't know how that's gonna work,
maybe
right?
they'll do
Like,
like the kitchen is like half the time, half the house,
you
half
have
the
to like
time the
buzz into it. You
others.
have to like schedule it.
Yeah, you have to schedule, and then upstairs will be the five people, and downstairs will be five people, and then you have the
Well,
HOH bathroom and the regular bathroom.
maybe. But then does one of the like because my guess is there's gonna be two HOHs. So does the how does that? I don't know. We'll find out. We'll see. We'll see how logistically it works. But from a twist perspective, my understanding is it'll be two HOH comps, two HOHs. They're gonna each nominate two people from inside their groups. It'll be a final five style veto round, and then at the end of the week, it'll be like two people in each group plus the HOH from their group will to evict each of them. It's
Yeah,
it's
because
very ripe for somebody to get twist screwed here. Very ripe.
downstairs has way more rooms too, right? It has like two rooms and then a sleeping area, like common area. And upstairs only has the HOH room and the have not room now, right?
Yes, and then it also has
Yeah.
like the bridge with the bumper pool and all that.
I guess they could. You just make whoever's up there the have nots if you're not
Well, yeah,
HOH or
maybe
what.
if they play the HOH concurrent or the HOH comps concurrently as one competition, maybe like the ultimate winner among the two HOHs gets to win like the better half of the house,
Yeah,
and the other five become have-nots, or like
yeah,
the HOH loses have-nots for the other four members of their group, and so the HOH gets to stay in the HOH room, but then the four get to live in the have-not room, and then the other five live downstairs.
yeah. I don't
I don't know.
know.
We'll find out. It's very messy. I can't see this being executed well. Maybe I'll be surprised, but I feel like there's no way this is executed well.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, but I do agree. It's not like you can put them in the backyard because you have to make comps during
Hmm.
like the week. So I guess we'll see. And also the current HOH room's pretty terrible. Like I would not want to be an HOH this season. Like there's been past seasons where it's like whatever, like a kind of bad mattress. I can sleep on that. I don't think I could really sleep on a pool floaty for a whole week. That sounds terrible. Let
Yeah, I
alone do
mean,
anything else on a pool floaty.
yeah, I was gonna say. Maybe Kyle's just blaming the pool floaty, right? That's
Yeah,
why.
that's messing up his game.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll find out in 24 hours. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, we'll see.
we'll see. But from a game perspective, don't love this, especially when we're heading into what otherwise could have been like a really interesting week strategically with this alliance falling apart and kind of like internal strife and drama and internal shots potentially being taken. There's a chance now this just kind of plays out very safe, and I would assume at least one of the people evicted will be one of the three left from outside the leftovers, and maybe the other one is somebody where a shot gets taken or like somebody gets twist screwed because of like the certain iteration of who wins comps and how the split happens.
It's
I can
impossible
definitely
for us to
see.
say without knowing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're first of all we're speculating. First of all, the social structure of the house is completely up in the air right now. It's very unclear where multiple people stand. Secondly, we're completely speculating on how this twist works based off of just like our kind of understanding of how it should work, or it is implied to work from what Julie has told us and the information we have available to us. Then we have to speculate further because we don't know what the split even is going to be. And then there's like the randomness of the competition wins.
Yeah.
So like there's like 4 levels of unknown that we're trying to parse through and predicting what's going to happen. And that's kind of why I was like at the top of the show, I was like, we can talk about what's going on, but it's not really going to be useful.
Right. Oh, well, so yeah, we'll see. It'll be a fun week next week to talk about.
Yeah, it'll be at least messy.
Happened. Yes,
yeah.
At least messy. I do think, like, well, I don't like the twist at face value. I don't like it on Survivor at all. I do at least think the Final 5 structure of Big Brother is more interesting than a Final 5 vote on Survivor. So there's that going for it. There's a potential for a tie vote and the HOH to break it. That's always fun. Doesn't really happen that often, but it sometimes does.
Yeah, and there's like, outside chances of like one of the 2 non-HOH people off the block winning the veto, using it, and then forcing the HOH to nominate the 5th person that's left over, and then you and the person you use the veto on control the votes.
Yep.
So like the veto winner can potentially have an enormous amount of power and like essentially forcing somebody out of the house, which we don't see super often on Big Brother, but it is like a play that is often bandied about at the very least, as like, this is like something we have to play around. So maybe like we have double the chance of that happening now in this. So again, another opportunity for somebody to get twist screwed.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget when I was first getting into Big Brother and talking to you about it. You were always like, "This is the last HOH. You want to win the Final 5? Like, terrible." Yeah. It's obviously not all the same because they're gonna go into the Final 8 altogether. Yeah. Unlike not being able to play the Final 4, HOH really sucks. But still kind of interesting from that point of view with the veto holder having so much power.
Yeah, I would argue this is probably a round where you would want to win HOH, even if you have no plan, just because being immune through this round, you're essentially buying 2 rounds with 1 HOH because 2 people are going to be evicted during this round while you're immune. And it's going to be such a volatile twist that and anytime you can be immune in a situation where there's like high variability, it's just going to be good. So yeah, like you said, the main reason you don't normally want to win at the Final 5 is because it means you can't play at the Final 4 HOH, whereas if you win at the Final 4 HOH, you can still play at the Final 3. And so generally the person who wins Final 5 HOH is like the main target at the Final 4 because they're, the most vulnerable. This is kind of a different story, I think. So yeah, we'll see. It's very interesting how this plays out. I think that after this week finishes and resolves, we'll probably have a much clearer view of the end game than we do now. We're probably going to go from like 0 to 100 in terms of like our understanding of what the fuck's going on.
Right.
So yeah.
So stay tuned. We will probably record.
Yeah, I assume we'll probably maybe like next Friday or something can be something we could shoot for after kind of all resolves. Something like that. But yeah, definitely going to be hard for us to say what's going to happen this coming week. This is like the most awkward time to record because we're talking about like a bunch of kind of boring weeks that just happened. There's a little bit of intrigue. A lot of it happened off feeds that we're not going to see until the next 2 episodes that we haven't seen. And then the social structure is so messy that we don't even know how it's going to play out going forward, especially with this twist. So yeah, very much just kind of a talk about continuation bet HOHs. This is like a continuation bet podcast, just to make sure that, we're still here. We haven't died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the podcast is still alive, despite all the rumors. conjecture.
The word in the street was we were dead. Not true.
Oh man! All right. Anything else you want to get
I should
into?
probably wrap up here so you can go see the episode
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, you can follow me on Twitter at the fake BMAR. That's BMARR. You can also listen to me talk about sports on youtube.com/Wicked Good Sports.
You can follow me on Twitter at Ben Sharon. I've taken another kind of pull away from Twitter recently, other than like keeping up, like basically lurking on Big Brother feed updates. But I haven't tweeted or like been super active on Twitter. I'm trying to like kind of take regular breaks for mental health, so I don't get super sucked back in.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe I'll tweet some more with this kind of update upcoming week. And you can follow the main channel on Twitter at WG Everything, and then on Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, and then the YouTube channel at Wicked Good Everything. This is the podcast. This podcast is on our podcast channel, Better Radio, on YouTube, and then it is the Have Not Room on every major podcasting platform. Hopefully, we'll get some. And TikTok, yes, we have some. We have a TikTok now. We're cutting little clips from the podcast onto the TikTok, try and get some traffic that way. Yeah,
doing whatever we can.
For sure. Until then, we'll be back to cover some of the craziness of the upcoming week and the end of this week. And we'll see you then.